What is up, Kings? We are still hot on spoiler season and we still have a bunch of cards to get through, so let's look at the next round of cards spoiled in Wilds of Eldraine. Expel the Interlopers is a sorcery for 3 white, where you choose a number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures with greater or equal power than the chosen number. It's a great removal spell as it'll hit everything you want it to hit. I can see this as a thing in Esper control decks in Standard. 3 Blind Mice is an enchantment saga for 2 and a white with the following. Chapter 1 makes a 1/1 white mouse token. Chapters 2 and 3 populates a token. Chapter 4 gives all your creatures +1/+1 and vigilance until end of turn. This is a pretty solid card in Go White decks. It gives you a token to start that multiplies and pumps your whole board with a sweet combat ability. Might be a bit slow for the standard white aggro decks, but a cool card nevertheless. Virtue of Knowledge is an enchantment for 4 and a blue, with Panharmonic on text, doubling triggered abilities of permanents you control that are triggered by other permanents you control. You can also cast its adventure, Thantress Visions for 1 and a blue, which copies an activated or triggered ability you control. I don't see this making waves in constructed decks like Standard, but copying abilities in Commander is where this card is at. Beseech the Mirror is a sorcery for 1 and triple black, with the new mechanic Bargain. As you cast this spell, you may sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or a token. Search your library for a card and exile it face down. If you bargain with the spell, you may cast the tutored card if its mana value is 4 or less. If not, it goes to your hand. I mean, this is such a wonderful card. This will see play in Pioneer for sure in Rakdos midrange. You are able to grab Sheoldred, Fable, Giant, or Liliana. And Standard's a little on the slow side right now too, so this will most likely see play in those black-based Standard decks. Lich Knight's Conquest is a sorcery for 4 and a black that lets you sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, and or tokens to return that many creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield. I mean, as nice as this is, the Conquest is only as good as the number of things in your yard and the things on your field. It's a 1-for-1 reanimation spell that scales the more things you could bring back and the more things you could sacrifice. The End is an instant for 2 black. It costs 2 less if Fateful Hour is enabled. Exile target creature or enchantment. Search its controller's hand, library, and graveyard for all copies of the targeted card and exile them too. For every card exiled from the hand, that player draws a card. This is targeted removal akin to Extirpate, Legion's End, Lost Legacy, and Surgical Extraction. A sideboard card for control decks to hit those problem cards beating you down early. Realm Scorcher Hellkite is a 4/6 dragon creature for 4 red. It has Bargain, so you may sacrifice a thing to get an additional effect. It also has Flying and Haste. When it enters, if it was Bargained, add 4 mana in any combination of colors. It also has the ability for 1 and a red to deal 1 damage to a target. Now, this is honestly kind of an underwhelming mythic. It's a flying haster for 6 that gives you some refunded mana if you bargain, and you can spend more mana into this creature to deal 1 damage to anything. It has good hits with cards like Thalia and other small creatures, but being played so late means there will be other problematic things to worry about, and that 4 damage flying in the air isn't all that impressive in all honesty. Elvish Archivist is an elf artificer creature for 1 and a green. When 1 or more artifacts enters the battlefield on your side, put 2 1/1 counters on it. When 1 or more enchantments enter the battlefield on your side, draw a card. These abilities trigger once per turn. Now, this is kind of a pushed card for the set. This set has many ways to trigger its effects, with those token rolls and food tokens coming out often. In Limited, this is going to be a must-answer card for sure. Agatha of the Vile Cauldron is a 1/1 human warlock for red and a green. Activated abilities of creatures cost X less, where X is Agatha's power. This effect can't reduce that cost to less than 1 mana. She also has an ability for 4 red-green, granting your other creatures +1/+1, trample, and haste until end of turn. Another commander card for sure. This is a strict build around, and my tiny Esper brain can't see the deck, but Agatha has many people excited. Not in that way. Okay, maybe in that way. Baluna Grand Qual is a 4/4 giant noble for blue-red-green with trample, and permanent spells you cast that have an adventure cost 1 less. You can cast it for its adventure, Seek Thrills for 2 blue-red-green, to mill 7 and put all cards with adventure from the milled cards into your hand. In addition to Gorian, we have a second commander caring about adventure spells. Now, I'm not too sure how I feel about swapping the white for red. We're giving up cards like Rob the Horde, Chop Down, and Isgard's Call for Stomp, Haggle, and Bathe in Gold. And we give up doubling those adventure spells for making the permanents cost less. I'm personally more akin to Gorian, but I see Baluna having a ton of fans. Decadent Dragon is a 4/4 dragon creature for 2 red with flying and trample, and when it attacks, make a treasure token. You can also cast Expensive Taste for 2 and a black, which exiles the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Now as long as they're exiled, you may play those cards. Now this is a dragon. Mana and card advantage all on the same card. Rakdos, Lost Reckoner, Bankbuster, and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but I see this as being a great replacement for the deck. Ariad of the Charmed Apple is a 2/4 human warlock for 1 white-black. Each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can't attack you or your planeswalkers. On your end step, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the auras you control. A cool take on Enchantress where she focuses only on auras. There are a ton of curses you can run in the deck and spread the love all over and drain your opponents for large chunks of damage. Fawn's Bane Troll is a 4/4 troll for 2 black-green, and when it enters, create a monster roll attached to the troll. It's an aura that grants enchanted creature +1/+1 and trample. You can also pay 1 and sack an aura on the troll to have it fight a creature you don't control. If that creature would die, exile it instead, and you can do this only as a sorcery. Now before going forward, rolls are a new token in the set that are attached to creatures that grant effects and or bonuses depending on the kind that is attached. Now this is another solid draft card. Stockpile the troll with all the auras you can and slowly whittle your opponent's board and swing through their diminished defenses. Hilda of the Icy Crown is a 3/4 human warlock for 2 white-blue. With whenever you tap an opponent's creature, you can pay 1 to get one of the following. Make a 4/4 white and blue elemental token, put a 1/1 counter on all your creatures, or scry 2 then draw 1. Now I'm not too sure how many tap effects we have in Wilds of Eldraine, but that will determine how good Hilda can be, so we'll see later on. Kellen the Fey-Blooded is a 2/2 human fairy for 2 and a red with double strike, and other creatures have +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellen. You can also cast Birthright Boon for 1 and a white to search your deck for an aura or equipment and put it into your hand. Now this is an awesome Voltron style card. Build your deck right and stockpile effects like Vigilance and Lifelink and Trample on Kellen to maximize the combat step. Now I can't see this being a thing constructed, but Commander is probably its best home. Restless Cottage is a tapped land that produces green or black. For 2 green-black, it becomes a 4/4 creature, and whenever it attacks, you create a food and exile up to 1 card from a graveyard. Now this is properly rated for it to be a creature, and on attacks, makes an important resource and attacks another great resource. This is a great man land, and we'll see how it fares in constructed. Now the Kenrith twins are back. We have both Will and Rowan Kenrith on separate cards this time. They are a 2/4 and 4/2 respectively, with Vigilance and Menace, and the tap ability to reduce the cost of your white and blue or black and red spells depending on who you have, based on either the life lost or the life gained this turn. Now in these colors, we have a ton of way to abuse these with things like Lifelink or the Soul Sister effects or Necropone style effects. These are fun commander decks to build around for sure. Next, we have Sir Ginger and the Goose Mother. Both are fairy tale staples brought to Magic. Sir Ginger is a 3/1 food knight for 2 with Trample, Hexproof, and Haste if an opponent controls a planeswalker, and whenever another artifact you control goes to the graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on Sir Ginger and scry 1. You can sacrifice Sir Ginger to gain life equal to its power. Goose Mother is a 2/2 Bird Hydra for X blue-green with flying. It enters with X 1/1 counters, and you create half of X food tokens, rounded up, and when it attacks, you can sacrifice a food token to draw a card. Both are fantastic thematic cards tying Magic to its source material. You can make food, be rewarded for sacrificing those food. Great cards in draft for sure. Huntsman's Redemption is an enchantment saga for 2 and a green. Chapter 1 makes a 3/3 beast token. Chapter 2 lets you sacrifice a creature to search for a creature or basic land, then put it into your hand. Chapter 3 grants 2 creatures +2/+2 and trample. Now I love seeing references to Garruk, especially from Eldraine. A green saga for sure. It makes your traditional green beast token, trades it in for either a land or another bigger creature, and grants a mini overrun for your biggest creatures. This is a very cool card. Blossoming Tortoise is a 3/3 turtle for 2 green, and when it enters the battlefield or attacks, mill 3 cards and then return a land from the graveyard to the field tapped. Activated abilities of lands you have cost 1 less. Land creatures you control get +1/+1. Now this reminds me of Sylvan Advocate from Oath of the Gatewatch. Those man lands can be animated for cheaper, and they get better as long as you have the turtle out. Also, when you attack, you ramp, and if you're lucky, you have a chance to return a man land from the graveyard to the battlefield. Great ramp creature and pumps up your land creatures in the right deck. Nice. Lord Skitter's Blessing is an enchantment for 1 and a black. When it enters, create a Wicked Roll token on a creature you control. The enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and when the aura is destroyed, each opponent loses 1 life. During your draw step, if you control an enchanted creature, you lose 1 life and draw a card. Awesome card advantage engine. You don't even need that Wicked Roll token. You need any aura on any of your creatures to get that extra card. This is definitely another pushed card for limited. Thunderous Debut is a sorcery for 6 green that has bargain. Look at the top 20 cards of your deck. Reveal up to 2 creature cards from there and put it into your hand. And if you bargained this spell, put them onto the battlefield instead. Now what a bomb for Commander. Imagine bargaining this card and grabbing the biggest bombs like the Eldrazi, or an Archon, or an Atali, or an Atraxa, or any other huge bombs in your deck. Farsight Ritual is an instant for 2 blue with bargain. Look at the top 4 cards of the deck and put 2 into your hand and the rest on the bottom of the deck. If you bargained this spell, look at the top 8 cards instead. Now this reminds me of a weaker Memory Deluge. The fact that Deluge can be played twice, granting you up to 4 cards, is phenomenal, while Ritual can only get you up to 2 cards, and it's not that appealing. Even bargaining the spell only grants you less value, as Deluge lets you look at 11 total cards for the best 4, while Ritual only goes 8 deep, getting you 2. It's a downgrade, but all control decks need a piece like this to maintain their card advantage. Well, that's round 2 for spoilers for Wilds of Eldraine. We'll be keeping an eye on the set for more spoilers, and if you want to be updated with this king, come back to the channel soon. Thank you, and see you guys next time.